This is going to be an extremely busy month. I have to watch 104 soccer games, follow the pregame, the postgame, yell useless opinions at the TV. It's a lot. So I knew that when it comes to screening for colon cancer, the choice was clear. The Cologuard Plus test. It can be used at home and can only take 15 minutes, so I can do it during halftime and not miss any action. If you are 45 or older and at average risk, ask your healthcare provider about screening for colon cancer with the Cologuard test. You can also request a prescription at Cologuard.com.
Welcome to a new era of baseball's great spectacle, the T-Mobile Home Run Derby, live on Netflix. The biggest sluggers in baseball put their talents to the test on All-Star Weekend. Raw power meets star power. Big swagger meets bigger slams. And you don't swing to make contact. You swing to make history. Watch the T-Mobile Home Run Derby live on Netflix this Monday, July 13th at 8 p.m. Eastern, 5 p.m. Pacific.
This is the Rumors Are True podcast, brought to you by Pantheon Media Network.
Hey, this is Seth from Watashi-wa, Eager Seas and Lakes, and you're listening to the Rumors Are True podcast.
Welcome, this is Jeremy Allen Gould, and I'm coming to you today to confirm between God and of man that the rumors you have all heard are true. I started this podcast to have a platform for the bands and artists that I've worked with in the past, as well as new musicians and artists that influenced myself and many others. The Rumors Are True podcast is an opportunity for the artists to tell their story their way. I'm still in the business of confirming rumors. I still love a good conversation, and I still freaking love music. So thanks again for joining me on this journey, and I hope you like what you hear. With that said, the rumors are definitely true.
Let it roll off your back and let it slip off your tongue before you lose your nothing and dip right back where you started from. Are you just waiting for the right time to hold it off until you see your side and say something? Or you just bluffing? I recognize the worry in your eyes, 'cause I've been there a couple hundred times. So take it from me, baby, I know wish you done it friendly. Let it roll off your back and let it slip off your tongue before you lose your nothing and it's right back where you started from. 'Cause when it's over, then it's starting for to tell you the truth. If you put your foot in your mouth, you'll be better off than kicking yourself.
Hey everyone, welcome to this latest episode of the Rumors Are True podcast. My name is Jeremy, and today I welcome Ryan Dominguez. You know Ryan from the band Tokyo Rose. Awesome conversation with Ryan. Super honored to have him on this podcast to bring me through his journey, through music, as well as what he's got upcoming in his not too distant future. So I hope you enjoyed this latest episode with Ryan Dominguez. Ryan, what is up, my friend? Thank you so much for coming on the podcast.
So good to be here.
Awesome, man.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah, absolutely. Been looking forward to this. I know we had been talking about it for a little bit, so I'm really looking forward to hearing your journey. Let's talk about what's up in your world currently. What's new in your world?
Yeah, I guess what's new in the world is Tokyo Rose is kind of back. We'd kind of taken an indefinite hiatus that became more of a semi-permanent hiatus, and life. And it's funny. Chris, our bass player, kind of teases me about this, but I took the city bike up from my kid's school. He had an international food fest at his school, and my wife teaches there, and she presented all these beautiful British baked goods and British food. Meanwhile, my only contribution was wearing my Filipino flag shirt.
Oh, nice.
I just went to sample all the food, but then, it fueled me to get on the bike and ride the bike up the hill to hang out.
Absolutely, man. That's really cool. Where are you living at?
I live in Jersey City. Been here for since 2011.
Okay.
So yeah, been here for a minute. Yeah.
That's awesome, man. I've been up there
in Jersey.
Yeah. I feel my friend Aaron, I grew up with in high school, lives in Jersey area. I'm not sure where. But yeah, and I know the Element 101 guys up that way, and a couple of the other bands
grew
up
up
that
with
way.
Those guys.
That's all. Yeah, Danny Papa's a great dude. He's amazing.
Great dude. Great people.
Yeah, man, that's cool. I enjoy going up in that area. Just visiting and whatnot. It's definitely a different world than where I am. And don't they pump your gas for you?
They do.
That's awesome.
Yeah, here and Oregon, I believe.
Yeah, that's awesome. Let's talk about growing up for you, Ryan. Kind of bring me through some of those bands, some of those records, maybe even shows that kind of pushed you in the direction you've went in.
Yeah, well, it's funny that you mentioned Danny and and Chrissy and Sal and Chris and Nick and those guys. We kind of grew up. I grew up in Bloomfield, which was the same town that half of those people grew up in Element 101, and seeing them play at firehouses, in Wayne or like Elks Lodges in Boonton and different places in Jersey. I was like, oh man, they're so rad. Like, and being huge, growing up as huge like MXPX fans, just listening to the podcast that you did with Jeff from Stavesacre, I was like, oh man, like I idolize those guys because like MXPX was always talking about them, and then like getting like the God Money soundtrack for that Darren Doan film,
dude.
I
had him on. He's great. He's fantastic. Good dude.
Yeah.
What?
So all those tunes, all those bands.
What did you listen to before the punk rock? What was it like growing up for you?
Yeah, that's a great question. So my parents emigrated from the Philippines in the late 70s. So they grew up in the Philippines, where, they're huge Elvis fans, huge Beatles fans, huge Michael Jackson fans and Jackson's fans, Motown, everything, like from Smokey all the way through Marvin. And so my dad was always playing that kind of stuff. He had a huge record collection. He was always buying records from garage sales and stuff when everybody was transitioning over to cassettes, and my mom also, she was just a huge pop music fan. She was always listening to the top 40 radio station around here. It was called Z100. And funny enough, Z100, I called in for a ticket contest, and my very first show was Red Hot Chili Peppers and Silverchair.
That's awesome.
And the Rentals.
Wow.
At Madison Square Garden, of all places.
Wow, that's amazing. That's incredible.
Yeah. To look back and like all those bands played. How
did you discover the punk rock world? I mean, going from obviously the Rentals and like you said, you probably the alternative at that time. I'm sure you were into, but how did the punk rock world get thrown into your life?
Yeah, so growing up, like around 7th grade, some of my best buddies and I started kind of a band, kind of a cover band to join the middle school talent show, and we would cover everything from like anything off of Green Day Dookie, anything off of like Offspring Smash, anything off of Bush's 16 Stone.
Great record.
But then our bass player, Neil Nonato, had an older brother called Nestor who was super into Descendants and all.
Oh, yeah.
So he kind of got us into like the whole SST catalog, getting into Black Flag, getting into, all the bands that were on those labels, especially Descendants and all. Those were our two top favorites. And all had come around, after Descendants had kind of taken a back seat, so Milo could go to college and all that stuff. So we all became huge All fans. Actually, my first like punk rock show was Descendants at Irving Plaza in New York. Wow. So that kind of like opened up the world for me to punk music. And then, Warped Tour started happening, I want to say in 95. In Jersey, and I had an older friend who was my substitute teacher, a huge All fan, a guy by the name Will Zagorin. Shout out to Will. He's been a dear friend ever since. He got me into all different kinds of music too. So started taking me to different venues around the area and seeing Descendants, seeing Henry Rollins' spoken word.
Yeah, I saw that. That's great.
Yeah, so those guys, and then just the Jersey scene, like I talked about this on another podcast, like going to Elks Lodges and American Legion halls in Essex County and the surrounding North Jersey area. I saw Felix Frump, this band from the town over, was on a record company called Iguana Records.
Okay.
Now I think it had to become Red Iguana Records. I saw those guys, and then a band called Seffler, who would later become Saves the Day.
Oh, nice. Very cool.
So seeing those guys kind of come up and come around, and then I started playing music in a ska band in high school.
What was that called?
It was called Day 19, and we actually still play today. We kind of got back together around the same time as Tokyo Rose. Yeah, we've been doing kind of like the small circuit, kind of ska revival.
Yeah.
But like getting into the Supertones and Five Iron Frenzy,
for sure.
Kind of like the whole West Coast ska thing, that got me like into more shows and playing, because I played saxophone in like jazz band in high school and stuff. So kind of playing that.
That's cool.
And so music was always around, and North Jersey is just like a crucible, kind of a hotbed for
Yeah,
music.
it really was. That area is fantastic, fertile with great bands for sure.
Hey, this is Jeremy with the Rumors Are True podcast. We'll pause for a word from our sponsors. Stick around. You don't want to miss what's next.
Before Tokyo Rose, kind of, you just mentioned a ska band and a cover band. Was there any other bands you were in beforehand to Tokyo Rose?
The cover band was kind of the first kind of step into performing music and playing in my parents' garage for like our 8th grade graduation. And then, starting to get interested in, seeing other bands come up in the scene around us, like going to support the local bands. So Day 19 was kind of the thing that kind of got us in through high school. Got us playing on the band's Warped Tour local stage.
Oh, cool.
We won a battle of bands to play a local stage in Jersey and in Randall's Island, New York. So then getting to play on the same stage as MXPX and Blink-182 and No Use for a Name, being into NoFX and being into Fat Record bands, it was like, wow, get
Dream
to like,
come true.
Rub shoulders.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Day 19, the ska band that I'm, still in or in again, we just opened for Save Ferris, and I remember meeting the singer from Save Ferris on that stage, in 99 or something.
That's crazy. That's awesome. So bring me through the beginning of Tokyo Rose. Kind of talk to me about how the band came together, how you guys kind of decided the direction you guys wanted to go.
Yeah, 100%. I love, I love the name of the podcast, because I think one of the things about Tokyo Rose is, and the rumors are true, we kind of had a revolving door of members.
Wow.
If you ever visit our Wikipedia page, we were all kind of coming of age, like end of college, and some of us were like still had to stay in school or our parents would kill us, and so we had a kind of a revolving door. But Tokyo Rose actually started while I was still in Day 19. We had 4 horn players that went away to college at the same time, so I stayed local.
That's crazy that they all just left at the same time.
Yeah, we all graduated class of 99, saved the best for last, all that stuff.
Yeah.
And, we all went our separate ways, sort of, but I kind of stuck around. I hung around in Jersey because I knew I wanted to keep playing music. I knew I wanted to be close to the guys and close to the scene. So I went to Rutgers, and while at Rutgers, a band called Tokyo Rose had formed with some old friends of mine, a guy by the name of Matt Riley, who went on later to start the Finals, and another guy called Mike Glitta, who played drums in this version of Tokyo Rose. And they had 2 other guys who, for one reason or another, kind of stepped away from the band to do college as well. Like I think college in Connecticut and college in somewhere else in Jersey as well. So I had been writing some songs with my buddy Charlie. Everybody knows him as Chaz. And he went away to college in Seattle. So I was like sitting on these songs that weren't ska songs. They were more like pop punk, kind of early emo.
Sure.
I was kind of getting into, I'd, listen to The Moon Is Down, Further Seems Forever. And then when Chris started Dashboard, I was like, what is this? Like, let me eat it up. Nom, 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 nom. Like totally into it. And all the emo diary stuff.
Yeah.
So I kind of started writing music in that genre and kind of really getting into it. And I just saw this snippet of Taylor Swift talking about,
I saw that. Yeah.
reading. Yeah, reading dashboards and Fall Out Boy's lyrics and stuff. It's like, that's exactly what I was like in my dorm room, freshman year of college. So I'm writing these songs, and I had no outlet for it because Day 19 was like a pop punk ska band. So I started writing these songs with my buddy Chaz, kind of long distance. And then I met up with Mike and Matt, who were doing Tokyo Rose. And while the other two guys kind of stepped out, myself and Chris, who was playing in a ska band when he was in high school called Professor Plum, we had known each other because we'd played a bunch of shows together. We both kind of joined Tokyo Rose, and it became kind of what Tokyo Rose is known as now.
What I know you kind of mentioned the songs that were influenced obviously by the early emos and the emo diaries, like you mentioned. Was everyone on board at that point, or were they all into the same music as you, or was it just kind of and I guess did the music come out pretty easy at that point with everyone involved?
Yeah, with Matt involved and Mike, like we were all like huge Jimmy Eat World, Static Prevails fans.
Great record.
So we were kind of moving in that direction, and then like I kind of brought some acoustic stuff and some more intricate stuff, and then of course like we're all huge Saves the Day fans.
Sure.
Huge Lifetime fans. So that kind of started pouring in, and then Mike was a huge Newfound Glory fan because he was into kind of like heavier music, kind of like with their hardcore roots and stuff. Actually, he was a huge Metallica head too.
Nice.
So he kind of brought that element. So we kind of had some like breakdowns and songs and stuff.
Yeah.
And then Matt was like getting really into Thursday. So he kind of like had like a little bit of a screaming element, which we didn't have after Matt left because it was not something that my voice could do. I kind of had like a choir boy voice. So I wasn't really able to keep that going.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's kind of what morphed into the Tokyo Rose sound.
Absolutely. So obviously you're playing around locally for the time being. Are you opening for anyone pretty big or touring artists that you're into? And kind of bring me through how Sideshow comes into the picture.
Yeah, we kind of got in with the Jersey scene, playing kind of the smaller venues in Jersey. Like we had opened for the Starting Line. We had opened for the Movie Life. There were a couple other bands that we had opened up for. Beautiful Mistake from California.
I know those guys, yeah. Josh.
Came over.
Yeah.
Yeah, I love those guys. Yeah, no, you did a show
John.
with Johnny. Yeah. And those guys have been friends for forever, since like, I want to say 2001 when they came over. We opened for them and All American Rejects at the Birch Hill in New Jersey. So like, rubbing shoulders with those guys or elbows or whatever. Just like talking with them, learning how they're making it happen, make it work. Really got us interested in like trying to hit the pavement more, and back then there wasn't, social media. Like we had Friendster.
Yeah.
We had like the very beginning of MySpace,
sure.
At the beginning of Tokyo Rose, and no Facebook yet. So, and very little YouTube.
Yeah.
YouTube was brand new as well.
Sure.
So we were like, the only way for people to hear us is to get on the road. So all being in college at the time, we had to kind of tour during the breaks. We do like kind of long weekends. We do, spring breaks or like week breaks here and there. And then, sometimes have to miss, blow finals and, or like do a paper instead of taking a final, so that we could just be on the road. And that's what we did. We kind of crisscrossed, down to Florida, across the West Coast and back across the middle. And we did that for like, I want to say 2 years until we met up with Sideshow. And they came out. We did a showcase show for them. And we met Chad, and we met Rory and Chad first from Militia Group, and James was a part of that too, but James was starting his own thing, and it felt like our band was a little bit more what James was kind of going towards, with maybe kind of more boutique alternative.
Sure.
Even though we fit right in, we loved playing with Copeland, and we did a few tours with them and Branston. And oh man, like big collapse. We did so many shows with like
I loved Shift. I
with
know that's
militia bands.
that's cool.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's so cool, man.
And then we did a bunch of shows with Let Go too, with Jamie from the Stereo, who we absolutely worshipped, you know. So like that kind of transitioned into us moving in that way, getting signed to Sideshow, and then Sideshow being like, you know, who do you want to record with? We'd love to put some music out. So we got to record the first record, Reinventing, with Chris Badami, who is, you know, pretty famous in New Jersey. You know, he's an amazing drummer, great producer. Worked with a bunch of the drive-through bands from Jersey and Pennsylvania, like Starting Line, Hidden in Plain View, Early November, Houston Calls, all those bands.
Whoa.
Who we were friends with as well.
That's awesome. What was the recording like? You mentioned obviously working with somebody you looked up to. Was it obviously your first time doing a full length for a label? Was it nerve-wracking? Was it easy? Was it simple? Was it hard? What was it like?
I mean, it was a whole new experience. You know, again, it was kind of, it's so different now when I think about how people record. A lot of stuff is home studio.
Sure.
I mean, this is technically my home studio, right? And I'm able to do stuff right into my computer. You know, Chris Badami, it was, you know, I'm sure he's digital now, but he was all analog.
Wow.
And then he did editing in Pro Tools afterwards in post, but, you know, reel to reel. And like, you know, we were young, like we didn't really know how to record. We didn't really know how to play to a click track or how to arrange songs and stuff. We kind of were just like, this is like my diary.
Yeah.
And this, you know what I mean? Like, This is how it came out. So this is how we're going to track it, you know?
Yeah.
And Chris is great because he was very much like, that sounds cool. That, you know, that kind of drags on a bit. Can we trim this here and there?
Sure.
But he was always like, whatever you guys want to do, you know, which was really sweet of him. But we were young, you know, so we were kind of just like, no, this is how I see it. This is how I wrote it down.
Yeah.
This is how I, you know, how I tracked it on my 4-track.
Totally.
So.
Was everything written when you went into the studio, or did he have an input at all, or was it just kind of what you guys wanted and it was everything, ready to go when you went in?
I think we had like 9 songs, and then like we had to write one in the studio, and we kind of like adapted another one so that we'd have 11 total. It was like, he was really, you know, hands off. He was just like, I want to just capture you guys and the energy that you have. You know, we're like 18, 19, and it's just like, we just had all this energy bouncing off the walls, playing everything at like 200 BPMs. And it's like,
That's awesome.
He just was like, I'm just going to hit record and you guys do your thing. And then, you know, we'll talk about it later. And but mostly he was just like, do your thing.
That's
cool.
cool.
Really cool.
How did you feel about the record when it was completed, and kind of looking back on it, how do you feel about it now?
Yeah. You know, I think we were still kind of trying to find our sound and still trying to find like how we wanted to express certain things. We had a guitar player named Greg Doran and a drummer named John Smith, who are both from South Jersey. You know, they'd played in a lot of like punk and like maybe some post-punk bands. So they were like, you know, really into kind of heavier stuff. And then, you know, Chris and I come in. Like, Chris is such a great bass player. He just like makes everything feel groovy. Whoever he's playing with. And then, you know, I'm just like writing, like my first 3 semesters of college, like in a journal, you know, just like dumping that out over the kind of melodies and over the chord progressions that we've kind of just like written in the van on those tours, or in my dorm room, or at practice, you know, at Johnny's dad's like basement. It was just kind of very organic, you know, which we learned kind of along the way. Like, that's what you want to harness. That's what you want to capture in the studio. But at the same time, you want to have kind of this, not maturity per se, but kind of, you want to be able to edit.
Sure.
You want to, you know what I mean? You want to
Totally.
be able to kind of revise.
Yeah.
And we didn't really understand that yet.
No, I get that. Were you, looking back on it, how do you feel about it? I mean, it's been so long.
Yeah. No, I mean, I think it captured our emotions. It captured just our like, our youthful energy.
Are you proud of it?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah, I don't regret anything that we caught on tape. I think the things that we didn't capture on tape, I'm glad like were left on the cutting room floor.
Sure. The record comes out. What's it like on tour after that? And kind of bring me through the touring for that cycle. You get to play with some bigger bands at all?
Yeah. I think, like I mentioned, like Branson had come to Militia Group. Copeland was just starting, on Militia Group, and like we got to play a bunch of shows with them down to Florida, down through Atlanta, where they're from, and we played with another band from Atlanta called A Small Victory, who was on. I'm gonna butcher this. They were either on Lobster or they were on Fearless. I want to say Lobster. Yeah, with Steve, and then a band from South Jersey called Days Like These. The Beautiful Mistake came over. We toured with them back to the West Coast and then back to the East Coast. It was a dream come true for like 18, 19-year-olds,
Sure.
right? Like we all pile into the van that my parents bought us, and like my parents were like, "Hey, we have a Costco membership. Like, buy whatever supplies you need.
That's awesome.
That's gonna last you for 2-3 weeks on the road, and of course we'll like blow it in the first in like the first 2 or 3 days. We're just like, we're rich.
That's awesome, dude.
And like we're sleeping on floors and stuff. We're not paying for hotel rooms yet.
Sure.
We're kind of just taking it as it comes, sleeping in the van when we have to.
Yeah. You're young and you don't have a bad back,
You don't have a bad back, exactly. Oh, it was so funny listening to Jeff talk about it.
I know, dude. I can totally relate. Next record, man, New American Saint. I feel like this is probably your biggest record overall. I really like this record. I think I saw you guys on this tour. I feel like with maybe Beautiful Mistake or somebody like that. And I could be wrong.
Yeah.
But kind of bring me through recording this record. Definitely a step up from the first one. Bring me through recording that and kind of thoughts and memories from that.
Yeah, I mean, this was kind of the dream, right? We had played with Copeland, had seen them kind of become Copeland with their musicality, and Aaron's just, his effortless songwriting and effortless singing, and then at the same time, Under Oath's record, They're Only Chasing Safety comes out, and we're like, wow,
Sure.
like, we're not screamo, but would love to harness kind of massive guitars and like drums that sound like they're going to break with every hit, So we had kind of done the touring cycle for Reinventing, and we kind of had members who were like, "Hey guys, I got to hang it up. I got to go back to school. I got to finish my degree, or like I have a job or a mortgage. Like I need to like pay that, or I'm helping with bills and stuff." So Greg steps back, John steps back, but John steps back because he had started a clothing company for which he's now kind of internet famous. At that time, like MySpace famous. He started a clothing company called Kill Brand.
Okay.
And all the bands from like Jersey and all the bands like from West Coast that we know, all the bands that came to Jersey for like Skate and Surf and Bamboozle, they're all wearing these shirts that Johnny has made. They're just black shirts that he's spray painted a stencil that says Kill on it. So that's like taking up all his time. He's not really able to tour because he's trying to like network. He's trying to, kind of produce shirts, like mass produce stuff. So he kind of takes a step back. And we're at the same exact time, we're kind of ramping up our ability to write music together, our abilities to play our instruments. I mean, I'd mentioned like playing Green Day and, like Offspring and punk stuff, like pop punk stuff from when I'm 13. Like I never really took a guitar lesson where I'm like learning scales and stuff, but all this time in the van, all this time like playing live and on stage and like jamming on stage or jamming at practice and stuff, like we're really starting to be accomplished musicians, Chris and I.
That's
Chris
awesome.
always was, but I'm starting to learn how to play guitar better.
Lock in together, lock in together.
Yeah, exactly. Have grooves and have kind of a vibe. And we meet a drummer who had studied at Berklee College of Music by the name of Tom Roslak. Yeah, this guy Tom Roslak, a phenomenal musician who had played with some other friends of ours back in college. he was around, he was kind of into everything from like Refused to John Bonham to Elliott Smith. He kind of had a lot of sensibility, a lot of musicality, where I was like, hey, would you be, consider recording and doing some touring afterwards? And he was, he signed on.
Wow.
So hearing the stuff that Copeland was doing and Under Oath kind of blowing up, on their second record, we're like, who recorded that, and how do we know them? How can we get to record with them? And it ended up being Matt Goldman in Atlanta at the time.
He's great.
Amazing.
Yeah.
Like the sweetest human and the most talented producer, and instrumentalist, a phenomenal drummer in his own right. Him and his buddy Troy Staines, who was his kind of assistant. Yeah, Troy.
Yeah.
So getting to be down there with those guys, it was like, wow. His studio, Glow in the Dark in Atlanta, was very simple. Kind of one big room in the control room.
Sure.
But the big room was amazing because like located in the center of little Five Points in Atlanta. Gorgeous. Getting to be down there, like kind of living at the studio, but also living with our friend Aaron Beckstead. He goes by Aaron 084. He's been a friend for a long time. We put on like a show in his stepdad's basement when a show fell through for us, like on one of our first tours.
That's awesome.
And he's he's been a good friend forever. So he kind of like let us crash at his place, when we like could get time from the studio, and an amazing experience. Like Matt, like again, like created that wall of guitar, that wall of sound, and our friend Tom, would crush the drums. He played this like super deep, I don't even know, maybe like a 8 or 10 inch deep snare, and just like was crushing the snot of that thing. Kind of creating this wall of sound that we were hoping for.
That's cool.
And then also having the kind of sensibility and the dynamics to kind of play some softer stuff and kind of reduce, to be able to kind of really show all these different sides. New American Saint was kind of our attempt at kind of a concept album where the songs kind of would flow from one to another.
Sure.
Sometimes being in the same key, and sometimes being like two sides of the same coin, like thematically, or like the person we were writing about. Because a lot of the songs are like love letters to our loved ones who had been supporting us, friends along the way who we made and, kept in touch with, just people that like, kept the people that kept us going.
Sure.
Because after, 2.5 years of nonstop touring on that record, on the first record, it was like, we don't have like relationships with people back home because we don't have homes anymore. We're like,
sure,
we're not paying rent. We're just living in the van. So it was kind of like our love letter to them. And Matt, and Troy, and, just all the toys that Matt had at his arsenal, and recording with Tom and our second guitar player at the time named Josh, just being able to kind of use all of those tools at our disposal to, express, kind of despair and, and joy and, heartbreak. It was a really great experience.
Did Matt Goldman, did he bring anything to the songs, or was it still kind of like you guys do what you're going to do and he just records you, or did he bring any input?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, he kind of helped us edit a lot. A lot of the stuff was like, hey, this feels a little bit like it's dragging, or it's a little bit weak at this tempo. If we bumped it up a little bit, or if we maybe moved this part to here. But then also he was just like, what do you want to do? Like, what are you trying to communicate? And then he'd kind of help kind of craft the tones. Cause all we knew were like our Gibson and Fender guitars, like on 11, and he's like, well, no, let's use this Tweed amp, and we'll play this, this, P90 double cutaway guitar instead, or something lighter, or he'd have like an old Silvertone or something that would have that kind of like really distinct kind of crackly but really kind of beautiful, kind of like almost like a blues instrument kind of sound. He just had accumulated so much great equipment and knew how to use it.
That's cool. Did this record turn out the way you wanted it to?
Absolutely. Yeah. I think looking back on it now, we released it, I believe, with 11 songs again, but there was one song that got left off, two songs that kind of got left off from the writing, and when we did the 20th anniversary last year on vinyl, we got to put them back on, and it felt more complete. But at the time, it was just like, you're just like, oh wow, like it is missing something. But at the time, we kind of wanted to. Sideshow was very much like we want to leave stuff for like a Japan release or a European release, because the labels want something else to kind of make it unique.
Sure, sure.
Over there.
What are your thoughts looking back on it? Obviously, I can kind of tell in your voice that you really are proud of this record, and of course, having the vinyl version of it, I'm sure that felt great. But yeah, just kind of overall, what are your thoughts looking back on this record?
Yeah, I mean, it's so that it's like our biggest record. It wasn't big or anything, but it was just like the record that meant the most to us. I think when we put it together, when we recorded it, just the time in our lives, and being in Atlanta, it was like our opportunity to really see the city and the people who, that put us up. And again, that band, A Small Victory, that we toured with, getting to spend time with them. Yeah. And, Matt took us to church a couple times, and awesome. It was just like, this is cool, because we didn't really know about church culture growing up, even though the Element guys were all involved and stuff. Like, sure. I didn't get to go to church with those guys or anything like that, but it was a really cool experience. Yeah, I wish we could do it again.
That's awesome, man. I love hearing that.
Hey, this is Jeremy from the Rumors Are True podcast. Hang right there. Here's a word from our sponsors.
So the record comes out, you hit the road. Who are you touring with? And, is this record doing pretty well? I mean, in terms of like people singing songs at the shows and whatnot, are you noticing any of that stuff?
Yeah, I think because it was, ended up being our biggest in terms of like scans and stuff like that, we got to do a music video, and people, would call us or like email us like, hey, I saw your video on like MTVU or MTV2, or I think like the very beginnings of Fuse in America. Mm-hmm. It's like, we saw your video, like, well, I'm at the gym, like we're coming to see you at Chain Reaction in Anaheim, or, we're coming to see you like somewhere in the middle of the country. And it, it like paved the way for us to, in 2006, to go to the UK.
Oh, cool.
For the first and only time. We did 3 weeks, like kind of crisscrossing, England, Scotland, Wales. We didn't play in Northern Ireland, but like a bunch of cities,
sure, a
bunch of kind of like ski lodges and smaller venues. A legendary rock club in Camden Town in London called the Underworld.
Oh, cool.
Which was pretty amazing. And then like the Barrowlands in Glasgow, just like places that you'd heard of, places that we'd seen in like Enemy magazine or seen in like the Aquarian or something. Getting to do that, and then kind of coming back and touring again with like some of the other Sideshow bands like Sherwood.
Oh yeah,
band called The Pale.
I know Sherwood guys.
Yeah, Sherwood. Great band to tour with. A band from like Bellingham, like outside Seattle, called The Pale.
Oh yeah, I've heard of that.
I think
Pale Pacific.
Right?
Right?
They became the Pale Pacific. Yeah. Exactly. Yeah. And then another band from Boston called Via Audio, like a bunch of Sideshow bands, like all supporting each other, taking care of each other on the road and stuff, and playing in each other's home markets. We did a lot of that.
Did you ever play Wichita, Kansas?
We definitely did.
Because I used to book out there. Did. I booked in from 04 to 09. I wonder if, I hate to say it got to a point where I couldn't figure, I don't know who was on what tour or whatever, but I definitely booked out there at the Eagles Lodge. And
totally.
You probably were on one of my shows then, now I think about it.
We
But
must
yeah,
have been. Chris knows more than me. Chris is like an encyclopedia.
yeah,
of
I'm
all
curious
because
because I know I definitely did shows at that time, and I probably would have booked you guys on like a package or something like Sherwood or something, something like that.
Yeah, definitely.
That's awesome though. I love that. That was just obviously, the record you wanted to put out. You're getting to go to Europe. You're getting to tour with all these bands. Really, seeing people involved and wanting to be there and sing the songs and be a part. I'm sure that made you guys feel incredible.
Definitely.
Yeah, kind of bring me through the next record, the Promise and Compromise. I love that title, by the way. It's great.
Cool.
Yeah, kind of bring me through the recording of this and kind of what this was like for you guys.
Yeah, I mean, I think it was another dream come true to be able to record in Los Angeles. We recorded with Fred Archambault, who had just done the Avenged Sevenfold record that blew up like Backcountry.
Sure.
And then we had a vocal producer as well named Mark Rank, who was very much into like the songwriting, but more of like a vocal coach, and helped me kind of like maximize kind of what I could do with my like choir boy voice. And he kind of pushed me to kind of to use it to my advantage, because I wanted to have like a rougher voice. I wanted to kind of sound more tough, but I definitely come from the like Chris Carrabba, Will from Cartel, like we kind of have higher voices,
sure,
and kind of have like a cleaner tone, and there's nothing we can do about it,
yeah.
And like playing with those guys too, never getting to play with Dashboard, but obviously playing with Cartel a bunch of times too, from like Atlanta and the area, and their ties to Matt and their ties to Militia, of course. It was really cool to get to be out there, but I did miss one like kind of like our biggest tour in 2006, in between the release of New American and Promise and Compromise. We got to tour with Taking Back Sunday.
Oh wow. Very cool.
We had been friends with Fred Mascherino for a really long time.
Yeah.
Because we had known Breaking Pangea.
Sure.
And the bands and like the scene from Eastern Pennsylvania that Fred comes from. So when they went on tour, because he recorded Where You Want to Be with them, and then he recorded Louder Now with them, which is 20 years old this year.
Crazy.
He was like, hey, would you guys want to come on the road with us? We're going to do like 2 weeks across the middle of the country and then down the East Coast, kind of like home markets for us on the East Coast. So that kind of helped as well with New American Saint, kind of, seeing more of an audience, playing in front of people that we wouldn't normally get to play with on that scale, because Taking Back was at their pinnacle, I would say, with the videos on MTV
Totally.
proper, it's kind of like the ESPN, but not ESPN2 or
Sure.
not the Ocho,
The big dogs.
Yeah. And it was like, okay, that really kind of helped establish that record and kind of, our name more in terms of like touring and being
Sure.
in these markets.
Sure.
Yeah.
Well, on this last record, you mentioned recording with what was his name? Fred, is what you said?
Yeah, Fred Archambault.
Yeah. What was that?
Yeah.
And you said you had a vocal producer. Was that a good experience? Did they bring anything to the table, or was it kind of you guys just ready to go do your thing?
Yeah, I think by that point we had kind of like, we had gotten New American Saint out of our system, kind of like that was like our more experimental, kind of more, indie, more boutiquey, and we wanted to kind of do something a little bit more like straight up the middle, with our like pop punk roots, with our Jimmy Eat World, like desire to be like just write pop, gems
Hooks.
and kind of songs that were hooks, and then like the tones as well, like just kind of going for like really strong guitars, like nothing overly distorted, nothing overly, strange. Like we wanted kind of, more kind of just like pop sensibilities. Like Fall Out Boy had released Take It to Your Grave, and then like it was kind of like, oh, like this, there's a whole wave of this kind of pop punk emo thing, drawing from the same influences, but with like really, really great like production that sounds like, radio ready production.
Sure.
So the songs we were writing definitely had a lot of that in mind when we were writing, and then working with Fred and Mark, being able to kind of like rein in where we were getting a little bit too wily, a little bit too, because I tend to get wordy.
Sure.
I get kind of heady. Chris always says like I'm writing for the thinking man when I should have been writing for like the 16-year-old.
Makes sense, man. Totally makes sense. Yeah.
Yeah, because Chris also has great sensibility in terms of like marketability and like where he saw the band and like our strong points.
Sure.
So as much as New American State was like, this is our opus, we kind of wanted Promise and Compromise to be more of like our, this is what breaks us into the mainstream if possible, if that was in the cards.
Sure.
But there was still a little bit of experimentation, to be honest. I mentioned earlier that Chris and I kind of came from ska. And so we were using a little bit more kind of, like more syncopation, some more kind of like ska chords and stuff, kind of more dance rhythms, because we had been really huge Glassjaw fans, but then also really huge Head Automatica fans, being Lifetime fans as well, like being
Great band.
fans of Ari.
Yeah.
When Ari started 0-0, it's like, oh, like there is a dance there is a dance vibe here. And we kind of would naturally do that with Chris as a bass player, because he would play just grooves that you would like, tap your toe to or bop your head to. And then Chris got a lot more involved with the songwriting too. So a lot of his, influences and a lot of his kind of writing sensibilities kind of made the songs more pop as well.
Yeah.
A little bit more straight up the middle.
Very cool.
Which was, it felt like the natural progression of a band like ours, especially with the kind of growing popularity of the style of music.
Sure. Did this record turn out the way you guys wanted it to?
I think so. Like it sounds like, again, like head and shoulders above the first record. It felt more like pop friendly. It felt like we were kind of more of, we recorded it with myself, Chris, and then our friend Jake Margolis, who played in a band called Madcap, and then he plays now in a band called The Drowns out of Portland. They're blowing up, and in between that, he's like played in a bunch of different bands like The Briggs from LA.
Oh yeah, I've heard of them.
And then he actually he played in Everclear for a while.
Oh wow, that's awesome.
Everclear. Yeah, because his kids went to the same school as Art's kids,
insane.
And they kind of started talking. Yeah, he like did an international tour with Everclear.
Wow.
So he was like, also like a straight up the middle pop punk drummer, with a lot of that influence, and it just kind of made for this, kind of this complete package of like a pop punk record that had some emo leanings, some kind of Jimmy World, references as well.
Sure. You proud of this record? You looking back on it?
Yeah. I mean, I think we were like, this is our third record with Sideshow. We got to kind of exercise our demons with really showing all of our colors with New American Saint. Let's write something that we can stand on that's still Tokyo Rose, but maybe that can like go in line with the Fall Out Boys and the Jimmies and the Taking Back Sundays and the, Red Jumpsuit Apparatuses that are really kind of taking the Warped Tour stage like to main stage.
Sure. What's the touring like for this record? Same usual suspects, or is it a different kind of touring?
I mean, like I said, it was Taking Back Sunday was our biggest tour.
Oh, and was on this one?
It was just before this one.
Okay, I gotcha.
Yeah, so then even a lot of playing with them, for 2 weeks straight and seeing their musicality shine, it was like, okay, how can we level up our playing and our songwriting to kind of be on par with them? But then we got a booking agent. We hadn't had a booking agent in earnest for like the first 5 years of the band.
Mm-hmm.
So when this record came out, Sideshow hooked us up with a booking agent. So they put us on a bunch of tours with bands that were bigger than us, but were maybe a little bit more in like the kind of punk and ska scene. Like we'd done a tour with Zebrahead, a tour with Authority Zero.
Yeah.
So those bands were bigger, but they were kind of more on the
Punk side.
more on like the skate punk, skate punk,
Totally.
like reggae influence as well. And that was, it was a really unique experience for us because we were kind of more leaning in the emo and pop punk genre. So their fans either loved us or hated us, and I would say it was like 50-50 depending on where we were in the country. I think like West Coast and Southwest, where like Authority Zero is from, and Zebrahead's from California, like we did really well with them because we had toured there a bunch of times as well. But I think more towards the middle of the country, where punk is punk and like emo is not punk, I think we kind of alienated some of
that's a weird pairing in my opinion, but I get why it wouldn't be the worst thing in the world, but I also could see it being like, shut up and get off the stage, like that.
Yeah, it's like we want to sing our oi punk.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So obviously you tour this record and then you wind up taking a hiatus, indefinite hiatus, as you mentioned earlier. Bring me through that.
That's right.
What led to that? Kind of bring me through that.
Yeah. I think it was a, kind of a confluence of a bunch of different things, in 2007, like Napster, LimeWire, a lot of the torrent sites are really picking up,
Sure.
Digital piracy is at its height. So when the record drops, 2 weeks before the record drops, somehow the record leaks. So when, we get the scans back from the first week, the label's like, guys, like, how did this happen? This is supposed to be the biggest week of sales and stuff. Like the wind was totally sucked out, and it turned out, like the record was leaked. It was mislabeled on like the Grace Notes kind of thing, like the digital database. So like when people would buy it and upload it to their iTunes or whatever at the time, like it was mislabeled. Like it wasn't even Tokyo Rose. It was another band, and
wow,
it was this a really strange thing. And that, and I think being on tour nonstop from
Sure.
like 2003, we were tired, and I think disheartened, discouraged. We shot a music video for one of the songs on the album that was intended to be the first single, but then that didn't even get released like until many months later. I think it didn't get edited properly, or it was like the kind of the conversion from standard definition to high definition. Like so many things went wrong that, like, for no reason other than it maybe just wasn't in the cards.
Maybe writing on the wall type of stuff.
Yeah, man. Yeah, and that's what it felt like. It's kind of like we're tired. Like we all kind of want to move on to the next chapter of life, whether that's like Tokyo Rose being bigger, or like starting families, or finishing degrees, or like being home more, wherever
Sure.
home was going to be.
Sure.
So that's kind of one thing led to another. From that, we did our last like official tour in the beginning of 2008, which was another massive tour that we had no right being on, but it was Bayside, Stray Light Run, and 4 Years Strong.
Wow, that's a big
we did
tour.
that 2 weeks. 2 weeks of that. And I'll never forget it because we watched a bunch of the guys from Bayside are from Long Island, but then half of the band is also from like New England.
Okay.
So we were watching the Giants beat Tom Brady, undefeated Tom Brady, in the Super Bowl, like in one of the last shows of the tour. And then
That's awesome.
We go home and we're like, what's next? And we're like, I don't know. Like, we didn't have a booking agent anymore. because the label kind of was like, we can't really invest more in this.
Sure.
You know, they kind of had to cut their losses. And yeah, we were kind of like, okay, I guess this is the sign from the universe, from God or whomever, that
Yeah.
let's try something new.
Was that difficult for you to accept at that time, getting that news? But I mean, like you said, the writing was kind of on the wall, so you kind of knew you might be headed that way. But was that difficult for you to kind of put it down?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, you know, like I kind of went back home. My parents were like, "Hey, you can stay here till you figure it out." You know, I moved back in with my folks for a little bit. I started going to counseling, to therapy. You know, I was like in a pretty bad depression. You know, started taking antidepressants. You know, so it was kind of like yeah, it was like a real low point, you know, but I think, you know, in that time as well, you know, having family to fall back on, having, you know, friends to fall back on, and, you know, coming to faith. I came to faith. I started going to church. I came to faith through a friend who kind of asked me to play on the worship team because he knew I was home from tour. And I was like, what have I got to lose, you know, at this point? And yeah, like that really kind of bolstered things, you know, took from a really dark place to a really hopeful place.
That's awesome, man. I love hearing that. I'm a believer as well, so that's really cool to hear that. Cool. You know, it's crazy how life can get really dark, but there's always that hope and that light there, and I'm glad you found it. That's really cool.
Absolutely.
Hiatus and then reunion recently. To bring me through this, what brought the band back together? You got a new single or 2 singles out, I guess, and then maybe a new EP coming out. Kind of bring me through the reunion and what. And you toured with Beautiful Mistake recently too, didn't you? Or played with them?
We did.
Yeah,
that's right.
Yeah, the reunion. Just let's talk about that.
Yeah, well, those guys have stayed friends, you know, for forever. Like we're intrinsically linked, even though we're like really disparate sound and genres,
and across the country from each other.
And across the country, exactly. We kind of had been doing different things. Chris had, you know, he had gone on to play in The Color Fred with Fred Mascherino.
Oh, nice.
And then he also toured with Secondhand Serenade as their bass player. And then he kind of came back from that, I want to say in like 2010, 2011, and just started, you know, started life. He I think he met his wife and, you know, started doing that whole thing. He also went back to grad school. I met my wife in 2009, got married in 2011 as well. And, you know, we were kind of just doing our own things. I went to Matt, our guitar player now, who was our guitar player in 2007. I went to his wedding, you know, back then. So we kind of like kept in touch, but we were all like doing different things. Chris moved to Eastern Pennsylvania away from Jersey. He's kind of over Jersey. Mm-hmm. He's like an adopted Eastern Pennsylvania now.
Yeah.
And yeah, life happened. Chris started playing in a new band called Sleep Cycles from Eastern PA, from kind of Philly area, and they're awesome. They're really great, and kind of continuing, you know, like continuing holding the torch for the pop punk and emo from the kind of South Jersey and Eastern Pennsylvania area. But I kind of, you know, started kind of getting really into my faith. Started serving on worship teams and like becoming a worship pastor for a church. And then like we had our son in 16. So like wasn't really thinking about music, to say, but personally, you know, Matt was playing in Color Fred and Say Anything. And then he started his new thing as well called 12s, which is awesome. And then Sean, who had played with us on the Taking Back Sunday tour, was playing in, Old Wives and Action Reaction.
Oh yeah, I booked
with
them.
Jason Gleason.
Yeah, I know Jason.
Yeah. So like, it's funny how we're all kind of still related.
Yeah,
somehow,
interconnected. Yeah,
you know? Yeah. You know, the kind of like late 90s, early 2000s, Tooth and Nail. You know, like kind of youth group band kind of, you know, movement.
Yeah, totally.
And it's still alive and everybody's connected somehow, right?
Yeah.
But we played a festival in, I want to say Michigan, called Dirt Fest. And Chris will correct me if I'm wrong on this, but we played with a band called Southcott. that ended up getting signed to Victory Records,
Okay,
and
yeah.
we had maintained contact with those guys. But their drummer John Damiano is a really like forward-thinking person. He's like always helping bands and always like helping touring acts and stuff. He starts this thing called Emo Night Karaoke.
Oh yeah, I've heard
which
of that.
is
Yeah.
a live band who plays, the covers of all our favorite songs, and they do it so well. Like they sound like the record, enough so that people come up and sign up and sing with a live band behind them.
Yeah.
All over the country in the UK. Well, he says it this way. He says that he got really, really high and was like, "Why hasn't Tokyo Rose done a reunion?" And so he just contacts us out of the blue on Facebook Messenger and says, "Hey guys, everybody's done a reunion. Why haven't you?"
Oh wow.
And like we both kind of looked at each other online and we were like, "Yeah, why haven't we? This could be cool." And so he talked us into it. And meanwhile, he's like, "Oh, like you guys haven't done anything, in like more than 15 years. Like, do you have a Facebook page?" And he's like, "Because I tried to look you up and I couldn't find a Facebook page." Like, we didn't even have Facebook because we stopped like right as Facebook became like as MySpace died and Facebook took over. That's when we stopped. So we were firmly MySpace era band. And Facebook was not relevant to us, outside of like being in touch with friends from high school.
Yeah.
So he contacted us there and like convinced us to do it. One reunion show turned into like a weekend of reunion show sellouts. And then we get in contact with Josh and John from Beautiful Mistake, and they're like, "Hey, like we reunited. We're playing, Furnace. We're playing, a bunch of different festivals, Hellfest." He's like, "Do you guys want to come play with us in California?" And we're like, "Yeah, you come to the East Coast. We'll play in Jersey and Philly and like New York area,
Yeah.
and then we'll come out west and we'll play with you guys in California and Arizona and." California, Arizona. We haven't done Vegas yet, but my parents live in Vegas now.
Oh, nice.
So I
Very
got to
cool.
we'll have to set something up to play in Vegas. And then we did that with them. And then we did something similar with the guys in Park and Junior Varsity in the Midwest.
Okay.
And then we did Red Jumpsuit Apparatus.
Oh yeah, I know
that.
I know Joey, the
Northeast.
former bass player. I live in Jacksonville,
Yeah.
and that's where they're from here. So
Okay.
yeah.
Yeah. Nicest guys, super cool. And like we got to meet a band called Losers Club from like upstate New York, like Buffalo area. And those guys are really kicking too. Like they just opened for Simple Plan.
Wow.
I think they're on another Red Jumpsuit another tour in Canada.
Oh, cool.
So it's like we got to do a lot of shows with really cool bands, that we either played with or like knew, like we'd always be following them. Like Red Jumpsuit especially, like they'd have a tour poster up and we'd be playing the week after or
Wow.
the week before, all these venues
Yeah.
up and down the coast and stuff. So it's been really cool to kind of get back to it.
So obviously these tours kind of led to you guys doing an EP. Kind of bring me the details on this. And you just released a new song, like you mentioned.
Yeah, absolutely. So, rehearsing for these shows, like Matt and Sean both had played in Tokyo Rose, but in different stints because we had such a revolving door of members. And neither of them have gotten to play on a Tokyo Rose record. But they're two of like the most accomplished musicians that we know. So much so that when we got back together, it was just like riding a bike because they remembered the songs from when they played them back then, and then getting to add them to the writing process, like all their influences. Like I said, like Sean had played with Action Reaction and Old Wives with Jason and the Element guys. And it was like he could play any style of music. And Matt is just a gifted guitar player. Like he can play anything from like Van Halen to Stevie Ray Vaughan.
Wow.
So like having both of those guys and Chris being the bass player he is, again, it felt like being a kid in the candy store, being able to write some of the songs that like I'd stored in the vault from like, after a third Tokyo Rose record. It was like, I'm going to keep writing because that's just what comes out.
Sure.
But then like kind of locking them away and then having this reunion to be like, hey, would you guys want to try these ideas? And then them kind of becoming these full-blown songs, enough for an EP that is going to come out in July 24th with Manic Cat Records. Manic Cat Records has been so kind. They put out the vinyl of New American Saint for us.
Very cool.
With the additional tracks, and then they're putting out the EP. We released a single in January called Something Sweeter, and then kind of its sister track, Ugly, comes out, which just came out on April 10th. And then the remainder of the EP, 3 more songs will come out on July 24th.
Oh, cool. Very cool. You got shows lined up for this, or any tours, mini tours, or anything like that?
We have a few shows lined up. Like you saw, we are going to open up for Phoenix TX and Diesel Boy in the summer. And then we have a band called Dead Wrong from Eastern Pennsylvania, Philly area. Okay. Amazing outfit. Our friend Steven, who produced 2 of the cover songs that we released recently, he plays in Sleep Cycles with Chris, but Dead Wrong is like a power pop punk emo outfit. Some of the best to ever do it. They're on Fred Mascherino's label called Heading East. Okay. And he's got such great acts on his roster. Like he's recorded Like Roses from California, Challenger from Eastern Pennsylvania. My cousin's girlfriend's house just released an EP, which is fantastic. Color Fred stuff comes out on Heading East. But he's recorded Sleep Cycles and Dead Wrong as well, and a few others. I can't remember their names now. Sorry, guys. But it's just been really cool because like they kind of continued the mantle of the emo pop punk like in the 2020s. And like they're all, they're like 20-year-old kids, like still like making it awesome.
That's awesome, man.
They're like, there's hope for the future.
It's really cool to hear that you guys are back together, putting a new EP out. I can hear the excitement in your voice, and I'm sure that makes you guys feel really good. Having put those records out and looking back, all these people still obviously are interested and wanting to hear your band, and I think that's got to make you guys feel incredible.
Yeah, and we're all in our 40s now, and it's like, to think that something that we did when we were 20s, 18, 19, 20. And so it was like, oh, cool. That tour I mentioned, the Bayside 4 Years Strong Straight Light Run tour. It was our second biggest tour. And that's kind of how we went out. But my parents, like I said, they live in Vegas, and the Punk Rock Museum is in Vegas now.
Saw that. Yeah.
Fat Mike and Vinny from Less Than Jake, combined forces and put that together. But there's a whole like Warped Tour wing, kind of the new school of punk and pop punk and stuff. But there's a tour badge from that Bayside tour in the Punk Rock Museum, because Bayside celebrated
incredible
25 years. So Tokyo Rose is in the Punk Rock Museum.
That's really awesome, dude. That's really awesome.
It's pretty
I love
cool
hearing that. Ryan, what's your most proud of song and most proud of record of what you've put out?
Oh man,
gotcha, bro.
I want to say the stuff that is gonna come out is some of the best stuff we've written, and we sound, because of the production with Fred and Steve Angelo at Diver Down Studios, we sound the best we've ever sounded. But I think the song that it always goes back to for me is I Love You Too, which is kind of like it was like my dashboard tribute. I wrote it on acoustic guitar, and when we went to record it on our first EP, I didn't have a band version. I just recorded it with an acoustic, and I took piano lessons as a kid, so it really made my mom happy to know that I used my piano lessons on the recording. And then we really wanted a female vocal on it. After Chris had Rachel from Rocking Horse Winter on some of the earlier EPs, we're like, we really want a female vocal on this, because if Chris can do it, we should do it too.
Sure.
And we got our friend Katie Pandolfo from East Stroudsburg, Pennsylvania. She had just done the movie Wet Hot American Summer.
Oh yeah.
With the State guys and David Wayne. She performed the song Day by Day from the Godspeed musical at the talent show at the camp. So we met her out there, and she came into the studio. You know, her parents were like, who's this like bunch of kids from Jersey that wants to record with our daughter? But she knew the producer of the EP or the engineer of the EP, so we got her to come into the studio. And that's the song that people have known Tokyo Rose by, even after New American Saint and Promise and Compromise and everything that we did after that. I have met people who have recorded themselves covering it for YouTube, even though there isn't a Tokyo Rose version of that song on
That's
YouTube.
incredible. That's awesome.
Yeah, so I would say that's a song that means the most.
I bet, man. And that's really cool. People are covering it and got to make you feel good in that aspect. That's awesome. I know you can't predict the future, Ryan, but what does the future look like for you?
Doing this now, at this stage in life, like we're doing it out of the enjoyment of getting to meet new people and reconnect with old fans and old friends, the fans who have become friends. So as long as people keep asking us to come out and keep asking us for new music, as long as there's breath in our lungs and our feet work, we're going to come out and play, and we're going to, try to record as people ask for new stuff.
That's awesome. I love that. Love hearing that. Ryan, super enjoyed this conversation. Super honored to hang out with you and hear your journey. And really, really appreciate you spending some time with me.
Absolutely. Thanks for the podcast. Thanks for keeping, guys like me entertained and giving us something to talk about, because it's truly a privilege.
Awesome, man. Well, it's a privilege to talk to you as well on my part. So thank you again for that. Hey, listener, thank you so much for tuning in again and again. I really appreciate it, guys. Super honored to have you on this journey, so thank you for that. If you'd like to add me on Instagram and Facebook at The Rumors Are True Cast. If you'd like to like and subscribe, you know the drill, guys. Got a website as well, www.therumorsaretruecast.com, if you're interested in checking out the episodes that way. So thank you for that. Thank you to Ryan Dominguez. Awesome conversation, super cool to reconnect. It's been a while since we worked together back in the day, so I appreciate you taking some time to hang with me and really enjoyed talking to you. So thank you again to Ryan Dominguez. Got some incredible artists on the horizon, guys, and you know it, nostalgia is still a heck of a drug.
The podcast is produced by Wesley Hill, artwork by Jared Chase Bowser, and music by Brian Jaron. This episode is dedicated to the memory of my dear friend, producer, and man of many talents, Brian Jaron.